Okay, welcome to the first episode of J&J ComicsCast. This is a We the Nerdy podcast. It's our first ever episode, and it is our first time doing anything for We the Nerdy, which is very exciting. WeTheNerdy.com is a geek site covering comic books, movies, television, video games, and everything else you can think of. And
Home of the Badgers.
Home of the Badgers. My name is Jess Camacho. You may know me from being an editor at Geek Down Nation. I also contribute to Multiversity Comics, and I also host my own podcast called Creator Own Stories. I am a new contributor to We the Nerdy, and so now that I'm part of this site, I have joined up with my good friend Jadobi, who will introduce himself. But we now have this podcast, J&J ComicsCast, only at We the Nerdy, and we're very excited to be here.
Very excited.
Let them know a little bit about yourself.
Well, I write for Geek Down Nation, now also writing for We the Nerdy. And aside from that, you might catch me doing weekly. I will do a little writing about LARPing because that's another hobby.
All right, so J&J ComicsCast is a mostly comic book review podcast. Each week we're going to look at 3 new releases and break them down and let you know what we think about each of the books. Now, just for your own spoilery purposes, we will spoil some books here. So if you haven't read what we're looking at that week, maybe you want to skip the episode until you do catch up, or just, check out what we're saying anyway. Usually the fun in reading comics is the journey there. So,
and if you're interested in any of these Rebirth issues we're about to talk about, and you haven't read Rebirth #1, shame on you. Go read it and then come back.
Yeah. So this week we are talking about 3 books. We're talking about The Flash Rebirth #1, Birthright #16, and The Vision #8. Typically, we're going to try to spread out the publishers. We're not going to do like a 3 DC week or Marvel week or Image or Oni or Dark Horse. But the interesting thing about these 3 books is 2 of them are written by Joshua Williamson, who is a big favorite of Jadobi and I.
Yep.
So let's talk about The Flash #1. This is one of the Rebirth issues that is out now. Each week, I think for this month and next, there's a bunch of new #1s getting started. So The Flash Rebirth #1 is written by Joshua Williamson with art by Carmine Di Giandomenico. He is an artist that worked on a lot of Marvel stuff. He did the last ongoing X Factor series. And the colorist on here is Ivan Placencia with letters done by Steve Wands. Ivan Placencia did the colors on the... did some colors on the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman run. So he's one of the best. So... Flash Rebirth #1. I kind of feel like this is like very obviously like the best thing to read after Rebirth #1, because Rebirth #1 was so heavy on the Flash, Wally West in particular. So basically, there's been a murder that's very similar to how Barry Allen's mother was killed, and he's working the crime scene. And while all this is going on, we see some flashbacks to how he became the Flash, how he ended up meeting Wally West again, and we see a great conversation between Barry and his actual dad, not Joe West, even though I have a very soft spot in my heart for Joe West on the Flash TV show. He is...
The emotions.
I swear, anything bad ever happens to him.
Like, I wish he was my dad.
Right? I mean, I'm an adult now, but I will totally take Joe West as my dad. But
Hmm.
and this is Barry and his dad Henry talking about what Barry needs to do and what he should do in this situation. But a big part of this is Wally moving on. He's going to talk to the Titans, see what's going on, and Barry goes to visit Batman. And this is where the Rebirth 1 stuff comes in. Batman is still investigating the comedian's smiley face pin with the blood stain on it, and he is kind of not sure what to make of it. And Barry is like kind of the same way in that they don't really know what they're facing right now. And the end of the issue kind of shows us a little bit of what's to come as far as maybe a new villain, which we've been promised, I believe, by Joshua Williamson in interviews and such, that there is a new speedster around.
A lot of
Who,
new speedsters.
yeah, I mean, I know that the villain in the first arc is going to be a speedster, but it's not Zoom,
Hmm.
it's not Reverse Flash. So what did you think of this issue? What's your have you been reading Flash before? What's your background with Flash?
This is actually my first exposure to Flash. Like after the whole Flashpoint paradox and stuff, I was one of those who at first when the new 52 started where I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to make of the new world. So I was very picky with what I read at that point, and the Flash just ended up being one of those I never really got back to. So Flash Rebirth was kind of my first exposure to him since the new 52 began. But I really enjoyed this because you look at characters like the Flash, you're like he's a god, he can do anything. How do you really make a story for him personal? And being Josh Williamson, that's exactly what he was able to do with this first issue. You had the case, and that triggers all these memories, and then along with these memories comes everything, all the inconsistencies and contradictions to the things that made the Flash who he is. That's going on with the world around him right now. It's and then that's and then just even get into that whole thing between him and his dad. It felt so genuine because the only other exposure I've had to the Flash is the Flash from the TV show, which Joshua Williamson is also a fan of. So you can so when you're trying to get in a bunch of people who really haven't read too much of the Flash and just need that refresher course to really understand what makes him tick or what makes Barry who he is. I felt like he put a lot of Barry into this, where you're seeing the importance of just him, not the Flash, and I liked that. And then even just getting to the very end with the Flash having his little run in with Batman, trying to figure this all out. I really liked that because I also read the Cyborg series, and you see the way Cyborg connects to Batman as two technological geniuses, and then you see these two, then you see Barry and Batman, and they both have their connection, which is more about them being detectives, investigations, all that kind of stuff. They're kindred spirits about this kind of stuff, and I definitely want to see that explored a little bit further. So overall, I think there's a lot of potential from where we can go with this. I mean, it this is pretty much ground zero for a lot of stuff. As they said, this is the crossroads for the DC universe with a lot of this stuff going on. So this is right where you want to be.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I really do like the way Williamson works Batman into this issue. Because my biggest thing with Batman over the last few years is I feel like he's not a detective anymore. He's so brutal, and I haven't been as into the character as I used to be. But I really do like Williamson bringing Barry into it with him as a detective. That they're investigating what's going on. They're using science and their intelligence to figure out what's happening. I really like that. I really like the fact that we open with Barry working his day job. I feel like there's some heroes that you can get away with never giving them like an actual normal life, I guess. And but Flash is not one of them. Barry Allen as a crime scene investigator is like such an integral part of who he is. So I really do like that that's brought up. I love the conversation with him and his dad. I feel like the way Williamson wrote this, it's like you get this great primer on who the Flash is and what makes him tick in this one issue. And I feel like when you're doing something like Rebirth, you need to find a way for people to get engaged with these characters that they may not have ever heard of. And the thing here with The Flash and the way Williamson writes it, it's very similar to the TV show. He's still a crime scene investigator. His dad's a big part of his life. He's already in tune with the Speed Force. Like, he knows a lot. He's a little older and more experienced, but I think if you're somebody who only watched a TV show and came into this, I don't think there's that much of a disconnect between the two.
Not at
Um,
all.
Compared to like something like the Green Arrow issue and the TV show Arrow, I don't think there's nearly that much of a disconnect between this and the TV show, which I think is really important given how popular the DC TV shows are. I mean, you can't say the same, I guess, for the movies, but the TV show, you've got Arrow, Flash, and then Supergirl coming, having a little bit of a connection between the two so that those TV fans can find something to latch onto here. I think it's important. I don't know if they'll be as invested in anything with Wally West or any of the Batman stuff at the end, but I think that there's a lot here for fans of the TV show to like. And I'm always a little wary of like the Flash always coming up against speedsters. So I'm interested to see in what Williamson does with the first villain of the series, who kind of gets teased a little bit at the end here. I'm interested to see what he does because I just don't want it to be the same old let's fight another fast guy. Because I feel like that's a problem with Iron Man. He always seems to be fighting somebody that's in another kind of suit, at least in the movies. And it's like, it's fine. But the art I love. I loved Di Giandomenico's art in X Factor a couple years back. It's really, really expressive. I think he's a little bit more polished here than what I'm used to seeing. The character designs, especially, there's a lot of movement going on. I love the way he draws the Speed Force and the characters running. There's two pages in particular that I really, really like. There's the one where Barry is running and he's talking about the visions he's having, and we see like basically like these little cutouts to different parts of his life. I really like that. And then there's the part where him and Wally are running next to each other and
And he's trying to stop
separating.
him.
No, and they're
Oh, the
separating.
very
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
Yes.
That was really a beautiful page, I think, and I like that he captures the two different ways that they run. Wally is running more like you'd see or like just an average guy running, but Barry's body pose is like way more exaggerated, way more like Olympic athlete, which I love. But yeah, I thought the art was great. The coloring is so bright and vibrant, and the thing about the coloring is that the New 52 was always was always criticized for being so dark, but you have Barry and Wally smiling a lot here, doing a lot. The coloring is so bright, so vivid, and yeah, I think this was, I think of all the Rebirth issues that have come out so far, this one was maybe my favorite, I think.
Yeah,
My
it's
second
mine.
favorite. My second favorite because I thought Green Arrow was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's Flash and then Grenadier, but like for me, it's Flash because I felt like, especially for the artwork, that brought out that sense of hope and optimism that they were saying that Rebirth would bring back.
Yeah, yeah. Um. So we have a second Joshua Williamson book to talk
Two for
about.
two.
Yeah. So the next book we're going to talk about is Birthright 16. This is written by Joshua Williamson with art by Andre Bresson, coloring done by Adriano Lucas, and Pat Brousseau is the letterer. Um, Birthright 16 is not exactly the best place to jump into the story. Birthright is definitely a book that is telling a very long story here. So your best bet is to start at number one if you want to jump in. So if you've never read Birthright, this is gonna maybe be a little confusing for you, but I think that what we'll say here might persuade you to check out the series. Basically, Birthright, Janobi, do you want to explain what Birthright is in a nutshell?
Birthright. Let's put this in simplistic terms. Let's say you were watching the Never Ending Story, and and let's say you're a hero, and your hero made it back in one piece at the end of the story. Just imagine Birthright, except the hero did not make it. We're playing into the literal sense of destiny, where the hero loses. That's that's all in a nutshell. And from there, it just gets into that dark question of what comes next, because because your hero is being torn from another world, and what happens when that hero doesn't come back? The family has to deal with that. It just turns into a whole lot of fallout, and that's what Birthright really gets into.
All right, so Birthright 16, Janobi, let us know where we are with Birthright 16 and what's happening in this.
With Birthright 16, we've pretty much reached that point where Mikey has gone so far trying. He's in the real world. You have the authorities after him. You have the mages who are after Mikey because Mikey has taken it upon himself to come to Earth just to be rid of them. And he's pretty much made created so much noise along the way that the mages are fighting back. And by the end of Birthright 15, we find out a shocking revelation about one of them that really just rocks the whole world of the Rhodes family, because there was so much, because you would think that the whole family is pulled in just because of Mikey, but their roots to everything going on with the world of Terranos and the mages on Earth, it runs so much deeper, especially now knowing that one of these mages is not only Mikey and Brennan's grandfather, but their father's father. Like, I know that's a lot to take in, but that's how it is, and it's just so exciting because from here things just go wild, because you have turmoil within the family, you have turmoil with the mages on how to handle this family. It's a lot. And for Birthright number 16, it all comes down to how the family reacts to knowing that this mage Samil is a part of their family, and knowing that he could allow all of this to happen. Now, he might not have known the specific details, but right now you sit back and you take in the question of how could you know that you're but how could you know but how could you have let all of this happen? How could you let all this spiral so far out of control? your father to have gone through all that ridicule, it doesn't even matter that he didn't know that Mikey was the chosen one. All he needs to know is that he has the magic, he has the power to at least help. He just sat by on the sidelines. So you had all of that to deal with. Then you have the mages dealing with these losses they have taken trying to solve the problem of Mikey. And I have come to enjoy Mastema as one of the mages because she takes a different approach to all of this. The others are a little more hands-on, but she thinks before she acts. She has Raya and Wendy downstairs in her mansion, and she could have easily said, "I have these two," but she waited. She's waiting to try to get the full picture of what's going on, while you have someone like Kylan who's just rage fueled, and these people were supposed to be seen as the hero. Yet you see how far they're willing to save their own lives, pretty much. And then and then the biggest twist had to be figuring out that there's a little more to even Brennan. There's something to like about the storytelling. They're thinking about the long game here. Brennan was infected by the diviner a while ago, and since then the diviner has spoken to him, and that's just kind of been an on and off thing. You probably, even reaching birthright number 16, you probably forgot that the diviner was even still in him, and now that actually has some relevance to what's going on when you see that when you see that there's actually an importance to when you see that there's that when it comes to destiny, a lot of these things are happening for a reason. They're Aaron, Brennan, and Mikey being there with Samil, or just the fact that Brennan was with Mike has been with Mikey this whole time. Everything that they've been through, even just Brennan almost dying, has all been for a reason. Um, and aside from that, like the artwork, I found very beautiful for this issue. I mean, Adriana Lucas and Andre Brayson, they did a spectacular job because a lot of this has been the most of the fantasy elements that you've seen them bring into an issue between what the mages are dealing with and what they're dealing with and what the Rhodes family are dealing with just to keep Mikey from dying. It was very beautiful, like the colors especially. But in general, there's just a lot of Terranos coming into Earth, and as I've said before with this series, it's a lot of fantasy clashing with reality, and right now there's more of that than there ever was before.
Yeah, I actually love that the family has gotten more involved in the history behind all this, because I feel like my only real complaint about the series was kind of like his Mikey's brother, his dad, his mom. Like I just felt like they were so not necessary to the story. I
Yeah,
think because
like
like
expendable. Yeah.
yeah, like if one of them would be like, "Oh, well, this is sad, but does it really matter because they weren't gonna do much anyway?" But like, you even have Mikey's mom protecting his unborn kid, basically, and I mean, she's a part of all that, so she may end up being like this protector for that kid, which I think would be interesting. So even she has something to do now. Um, but I really do love the family being involved, because it does make the whole series feel more epic, and it makes you feel a little bit sympathy for Mikey, because it's like he was a little kid that got taken away, and then all this stuff happened to him, and now it's like, well, it was kind of always going to happen to him. Like he didn't really have a choice in any of this happening,
Hmm.
which is, I think, really interesting. Um, and Breston's art is always so good. Like that last page is beautiful.
It really was.
Like that last page was fantastic. But I really think though that that this book and Nailbiter is what makes Williamson so perfect to take on a big story like The Flash and during Rebirth, because like with both of these series, it's he hasn't been writing arcs that stand alone all by themselves. Like he's been writing the story that ties all together from issue one. Like Nailbiter is similar to Birthright in the sense that you need to be reading the whole thing because he's not slowing down to explain things to you over and over again. He's just going to keep going with this really layered story that makes you impatient for the next issue because you're just so invested in what's happening. Really glad that both of these series are going to continue, even though he's DC exclusive now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited for that. But yeah, I really like Birthright 16. I think there's such a I think he's juggling a lot of things right now as far as the story goes, but I think that's what works for it. It's exciting. I'm really excited to see where 17 goes, especially if we because I wonder what the story will look like with a good quote good Mikey. Like if he's separated now and he's okay, what's that going to look like?
That's
I
true.
think that's exciting.
Because he's definitely going to suffer some guilt for the things he did. He still has a lot to answer for the things he's done, and you just really want to see how important family really is to him because the Nevermind has influenced him many times to be rid of his family ties, and he's just not willing to sacrifice that. It's like he wants the mages and nothing else. So this will be big. It's like will he really? It's like for someone who willingly took in the Nevermind for his own goals, will he at the same time get rid of it to save his family?
Yeah. All right, so we have one book left to talk about. That is The Vision number 8. I am a huge fan of this book, and I'm a little smug about it because when they announced all these Marvel books, I was like the only person genuinely excited for The Vision. I was like, you people are here making fun of this book because Vision is going to have a family and whatever, and it's going to be so good because it's so weird. And it's like turned into this amazing, like, American dream tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Vision just came in, wanted to live the perfect American dream, works in the DC area, has a house in the suburbs, a wife, 2 kids, and now he's got a dog. He's got
And
the
Stone Avenger.
yeah, he's got the perfect setup. And it's just been one disaster after another because really the question always comes back to does the American dream even exist anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, who knows? But yeah, this book has been like everything I've wanted in like a comic book, a superhero comic book, I guess, because Vision is a superhero because he is on the Avengers. So, and it's so different, it's so bizarre, and it's beautiful. So, Vision is written by Tom King with art by Gabriel Hernandez Walta and color artist Jordi Belair and letterer Clayton Cowles. And Vision 8 is the family is kind of in a really good place. They're just after everything that happened, they're just kind of hanging out and they got a dog and they're reciting Shakespeare and they're just kind of enjoying themselves. And then the son of Ultron, Victor Mancha, visits because if you know who he is basically Vision's. He's basically Ultron's son, in for all intents and purposes. He is Vision's son. He is a
Now,
Ultron's kid. So that makes him Vision's brother.
now, if you're very interested in Victor, I will not recommend you read anything else but Runaways. Just go to Runaways. That's all I will tell you.
Yeah, Runaways is like the Bible for him, and um also Avengers AI. He was on that team. I wasn't crazy about that book, but he was a part of that team. But if you don't know a lot about him, you basically get like his whole backstory in like a very short span in this issue. But so Victor is there to visit his brother and his brother's family, and unlike the Vision family, Victor passes for human. Um, he passes, unlike the Vision family, who are pink and look like robots.
Hmm.
So he's there for a while. He's there for a few days. He bonds with his Vision's wife. He bonds with the kids. Um, and we're gonna talk about the ending here. Everything's going all right, but if you've ever read an issue of the Vision, you know that that does not last for very long. And
No.
um, the Scarlet Witch has told the Avengers that Vision is going to do something, and he's going to like destroy them all or whatever. So Victor, it turns out, is there to spy. Not actually their brother who just wanted to see
Hmm.
his brother's family and get to know them. He's there to spy.
That really crushed me a bit because I read this issue and I got lost. I got lost in the family bonding. Seriously, like.
It was really good. It was written very nicely because
Hmm.
like they didn't try to do this at issue 1. 8 issues in, we know how this family works with each other.
Hmm. And it's like I felt so misled because from the cover of the book you know exactly what this is leading to, but when you open the book it's all family bonded and it just feels so nice to see Victor again, and then you reach that one point and you're like, oh my god, that's what he's doing here. No, so it's like this is gonna go very wrong.
And it's interesting though that he does this because he's really trying hard to not be Ultron. So he's kind of in this place where he will do whatever the Avengers want him to do. Like if they want him to go and spy on on his brother, he's going to do it because he wants them to think of him as a hero.
Hmm.
And I love that. I genuinely love that. So he's willing to betray his brother just so he doesn't get written down in the world of history as a villain. He doesn't want to be Ultron. Um, but I like that Tom King writes this book like it is this beautiful family bonding thing. It's so off, it catches you off guard a bit as to how lost you'll get in that.
Hmm. Because at the same time you see just the way Victor is approaching each member of the family. He had a beautiful talk with oh no, what the wife started. Why is her name suddenly escaping my mind? Help me out, Jess.
Oh wait, of who?
The wife, or Vision's wife,
Virginia.
Virginia. I'm like, come on, it starts with a V. Virginia. Like it suddenly just slipped my mind. Yeah, like that was such a beautiful moment. It almost brought a tear to my eye because she tries so hard, and he broke through her shell so fast. Like, and so she just that first issue, she's playing the most simplistic song, yet it speaks volumes. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And I'm just like, that hurts.
Yeah.
That really hurts. Yeah, and you saw the way he's talking to the rest of them about what they're each individually dealing with because they're hiding it very well right now, but he really cracked through them like very fast.
He did, and that's part of why I think it's just so surprising at the end to see that he is willing to do that. But I think though the most interesting thing about the way this family interacts is that they're just coming out of like the last two issues. Like we're coming out of Vision finding out about Grim Reaper and the whole thing, the whole issue with Scarlet Witch and how Virginia is even Virginia. Um, and it's like now they're just okay. And then like, and the thing is if you are in any way close to your family, that's kind of how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like there'll be like a whole thing that happens, and then like the next day you're all just like, ah, what's up? You know, you're just kind of
Yep.
like you're just kind of like back to whatever normal is. So it's I love that that's how the book is approached.
And what shocked me is that 2 issues ago, their house was in ruins. I mean, Vin was over here, was over here with a what was probably an almost empty bottle of oil, putting it into the back of his neck, and I'm like, what's happening here? How did everything fall apart like this?
Yeah. Yep.
If Viv was over here, like she's spazzing out, her programming is on the fritz, and she's now she's almost normal. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and I mean Walta's art is still like it continues to be so pretty, and I think Belair's colors really bring out something extra in there because she's like the best. She's like the best colorist in the business right now, and she does such a great job with creating mood and atmosphere. And there's always something so surreal about the
Mm-hmm.
book, and I think a lot of that is due to the colors. So yeah, Vision is continues to be excellent, um, and that basically wraps up the first episode of J&J ComicsCast. We looked at the Flash Rebirth #1, Birthright #16, and the Vision #8. Um,
The feels.
yeah. There's a lot of other great stuff out this week. For my money, I would also suggest picking up Detective Comics 934. That is a great place to jump into Batman if you haven't already. Also, Merry Men #1 from Oni is really good. That takes the Robin Hood myth and what if Robin Hood and the Merry Men were gay? That's what the story is. And it's great. It's really great. And also, The Wicked and the Divine #20 is out this week. So those are some other
Mind
great.
blown.
Yeah, those are some other great books you could pick up. Jadobi, what would you suggest people pick up this week?
My week was fairly small. I mean, like for the most part, my list took Rebirth took up most of my list. So aside from that, I would say definitely read the Wonder Woman and Aquaman issues. Though for me personally, though like truly personally, I would say definitely read Prometheus, Life and Death. I mean, all you really have to do, like, this might also require you to read the one before that, which is Predator, Life and Death. Though that's a mini series. It's only all of these Aliens vs Predator stories are only really mini series, only 4 issues, but they're spectacular additions to that universe. You definitely want to read it. It has so much depth compared to the movies. There are some adaptations to movies or TV, some that you just have to read in comic form, and I see that this is one of them.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the first episode of J&J Comics Cast, right here on WeTheNerdy.com. My name is Jess Camacho. You can find me on Twitter at Camacho Jess. You can find some of my work at WeTheNerdy.com, Geek.Nation.com, and Multiversity.com. And also check out my podcast, Creator Owned Stories.
And you can find me at Judobi.0 on Twitter. Find my works at We the Nerdy and the rest at Geeked Out Nation.
All right, and we'll see you in a week. And thank you again for listening.